Make some noise for the Senior Division Finals here at the European International Championships between Leyland Smith and Charlie Kim. Both trainers leading with their Tornadus. You've got the Chi-Yu, though, here for Leyland and the Raging Bull for Charlie.
Yep, Tailwind available for both of these trainers. And did you see how quickly Charlie locked in that Tailwind?
Both of them, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing you need to have the speed advantage if possible. And actually, the Chi-Yu being led instead of the Raging Bolt, that does actually give the speed advantage to Leyland here. And actually, we're seeing an immediate terrestrialization.
That's going to be a terrestrialization into the Ghost type here for Leyland. The Tailwind is set up first here by Charlie. But with this Ghost Terror, it's going to make sure that this Tornadus can actually stick around through this Thunderbolt. Look at that! And it fires off a Blake Wind Storm that connects onto both targets. A speed drop here would be crucial, and that's going to be a drop onto the Tornadus to help offset a bit of the Tailwind that got set up. But it's going to be the Snarl to follow. A KO onto the Tornadus, but a critical special attack drop onto this Raging Bolt.
Yeah, that's really going to weaken the damage output that is on Charlie's side of the field. And Leyland didn't click Tailwind on that first turn, and I think that benefits him a lot because now you've staggered your Tailwind. We talk about it so much when we see Tailwind available on both sides of the field. If you have staggered Tailwinds, you will have the speed advantage in the future because Leyland didn't actually need the speed advantage on that turn. The Thunderbolt did do extra damage because it didn't get snarled initially, but that didn't KO the Terra Ghost on the Tornadus. So I think that was the perfect terrestrialization there to now click Tailwind on this turn.
I am a bit worried, though, because Charlie does have the Urshifu that has hit the field. Depending on how the Urshifu and the Chi-Yu are trained, typically we see Urshifu that is able to get the outspeed. Chi-Yu would need something like a Choice Scarf to be able to do that. So while Leyland does get to stagger the Tailwinds and gets a chance to set that up with this Tornadus, this poor Chi-Yu is going to have to take a super effective close combat from the Urshifu, so it doesn't get a chance to make use of that wonderful field effect that Leyland just set up for it.
Yeah, and this is going to be another KO here coming up from the Raging Bolt. 20 is so low here, and that's not... Oh, it flaked me out just for a second there, but it did end up connecting and did end up getting that KO.
So here's a saving grace. Leyland did get 2 Pokemon knocked out on this turn, but now there are 2 free switches to bring in the final 2 Pokemon, and they get to use the maximum amount of Tailwind turns. One of those is going to be the Urshifu to stare across the way from its brother on the other side, as the Raging Bolt is going to make this like looking in a mirror.
And this might already come down to which Urshifu is able to move first with a close combat. We know that Charlie has already locked into close combat on his side of the field. Yes, you can go for Wicked Blow instead to be able to do some good damage to the Raging Bolt, but I think it kind of maybe has to be close combat. But also, actually, there's still the Terror available on the Urshifu, potentially going into that Terror Poison, and that would end up resisting the close combat. And in that case, the Wicked Blow would be the preferred move of choice instead.
It's tough because there is going to be a nice defensive Terra onto either of these Pokemon. So if Leyland wants to keep himself in this first game, he's going to have to get the call right of which Pokemon did Charlie actually terrestrialize. And for now, it's going to be that Raging Bolt. The Terra Fairy would make those Wicked Blows just be shrugged off like nothing. And you can see Leyland having a bit of a reaction there. The close combat moves first from Charlie's Urshifu to get a one-hit knockout into Leyland, so it doesn't even get a chance to move. So we don't get to see whether Wicked Blow was going to connect into the Raging Bolt. This Terra Fairy is also going to serve a dual purpose. It's also going to make any of those Dragon type attacks from the Raging Bolt neutralized, completely immune, but Leyland has set his sights on another. It is the Urshifu, so we have traded blow for blow here as both Urshifu are knocked out, and we're going to see the final Pokemon for Charlie revealed is the Landorus.
And that's easily going to be able to take care of this Raging Bolt. Assault Vest or no, that's going to be game 1 for Charlie. Leyland throws in the towel, and Charlie's taking this game 1 in such a quick fashion.
What a great terrestrialization from Leyland to start off the game to guarantee that this Tornadus would be able to survive the Thunderbolt and actually get some damage down with the Blake Wind Storm. I feel like where things started to go a little awry is just the general speeds that these Pokemon have naturally, not even within the training, but just based on the fact that you have the Tailwind set up on both sides. There wasn't really a way for either trainer to get an advantage because of how quickly that first game played out.
Yeah, you mentioned natural speeds. Chi-Yu actually does naturally outspeed an Urshifu, but when you run the choice specs, you prioritize some extra bulk instead, and that meant that it undersped the choice band on the Urshifu. Urshifu doesn't care about bulk, it just invests completely in speed and offense, and that's why it was able to outspeed. If the Chi-Yu had moved first before the Urshifu, I think the advantage would have still been on Leland's side of the field, and that was the crucial term. We said, there's probably some similar speeds or maybe identical speeds across this team, and that close combat moving first on Charlie's side prevented what we assume is going to be a close combat coming out from Leland, and that would have been able to pick up the knockout on the Urshifu and preserved it for being able to close combat in the future.
And it seemed like Leland would have also called it correctly there. Using Thunderbolt instead of a Dragon-type attack would have been able to help chip away at Charlie's Raging Bolt. So as we look forward to our second game, Charlie is going to have a one-game advantage in this best of 3. He wins this next one, he becomes the Europe International Champion, being able to overwrite the finalist performance that he had at LAIC a couple of months ago. But for Leland, if he keeps himself in this game and wins this next game, then we might be able to add an International Championship trophy to his own cabinet, something that he has been missing as an accomplishment yet. So let's see what this second game has in store for us.
Yeah, it's going to be Chi-Yu still coming out as the lead with Tornadus for Leland, but Urshifu is now paired up with that Tornadus, and we are immediately into a mind game because that Chi-Yu is Terra Ghost. Do you close combat it? You probably should have done, given it didn't go for that terrestrialization.
But there is going to be a Tailwind. First from Leland's Tornadus, next from Charlie. So Tailwind is going to be And it is going to be a close combat. There's no Terra Ghost. Leland doesn't get to use the Chi-Yu at all in the second game. And so now, what has to happen from here?
Well, now at least you're locked into close combat, and that's going to be not very effective into the Tornadus. And actually, the Tornadus, assuming it outspeeds an Urshifu, will be able to knock it out with a Bleakwind Storm. We're back to the mirror once again. Here's Urshifu and Tornadus also, but we're back in the same speeds because Tailwind was matched.
Exactly, so that means these Urshifus might get a chance to do something a bit different in this game. We saw Charlie's move first, get the KO onto the opposing Urshifu, but this time around, Leland has actually saved the terrestrialization for the Urshifu, so you will not fall to something like a super effective close combat or a super effective Bleakwind Storm. It's Wicked Blow into the Tornadus, just a one-hit knockout, and that's going to leave this Urshifu very vulnerable if the Bleakwind Storm is going to connect on the other side. Close combat is not going to do very much thanks to that defensive Terra Poison, and now this Urshifu has dropped its special defense by 2 stages. Surely it gets picked up by this, and the Bleakwind Storm connects. It's 2 knockouts here for Leland to keep himself in the series.
Yeah, fantastic terrestrialization there because, of course, the close combat on Charlie's went first. And now the Urshifu, it's still going to be able to put on a lot of offensive pressure. There's that beautiful shiny Chi-Yu joining the field for Charlie. And it's Raging Bolt as the Pokemon joining the last 2 for Charlie. The last 2 that could take his title here. That Urshifu, it's locked into close combat. And, we're locked into Wicked Blow, so it didn't drop its defenses. It probably is in range of Thunderclap, though, because Chi-Yu is going to be helping out the Raging Bolt with its Beads of Ruin. So maybe you have to consider switching out the Urshifu here in the face of a Thunderclap. But no, everything is staying in.
I don't know if you want to risk it. If you know that you have a full HP Pokemon in the back, you might not want to let it take insequential damage when it ends up switching in. Charlie is going to use the terrestrialization here, with the Wicked Blow being the choice band locked move here for Leland's Urshifu. This Terra Fairy is going to work like a charm. Wicked Blow is still going to connect, and even though it's not very effective, it does get a chance to land that critical hit thanks to the actual move details. And the Chi-Yu, it could hit the Heat Wave, but it could also miss, but it doesn't. The Urshifu is going to get knocked out in one hit from this Chi-Yu, and now we're down to just 2 Pokemon apiece.
2 Pokemon apiece here. But the Tornadus is preserving itself. The Raging Bolt's going to go for an attack here. It was the Dragon Pulse, but of course the Protect keeping itself safe. It's going to be crucial what was left in the back here for Leland, because of course it hasn't been revealed yet. It is the Landorus. That is a fantastic Pokemon here to be able to face down both the Chi-Yu and the Raging Bolt. If the Landorus outspeeds, and it is naturally faster than the Chi-Yu, it will be able to knock it out easily with an Earth Power, and you won't be able to deal with the Raging Bolt.
And while you get to benefit from the Beads of Ruin on your side of the field, it is a full field effect. There was a Bleakwind Storm miss. It's going to miss the Raging Bolt. We would have liked to see that that damage because it's holding that Assault Fist, but you're going after the Chi-Yu anyway. Earth Power picks it up. Thank you, Landorus, for the double Genies being on the field. And now this Raging Bolt has to deal with at least one of them. The Dragon Pulse into the Landorus just isn't enough. And you can see how those Beads of Ruin would have been nice to have in this moment. But how do you deal now with these two attackers in front of you?
Well, it's got to be Sludge Bomb. Bleakwind Storm did miss, though, into that Raging Bolt. That might have been crucial damage, because with the Assault Vest, is it going to live this Sludge Bomb?
It does! It hangs on with a sliver of HP. The Bleakwind Storm would have put it over the edge, and now the Dragon Pulse has knocked out the Landorus, making it a 1v1 for Leland.
But now we're into the Thunderclap mind game. Like, you can not go for Bleakwind Storm here to try and avoid a Thunderclap. Maybe your Tornadus was trained to survive that attack. We're going for a Protect first. Just scouting out here, maybe stalling out the PP of the Thunderclap as well.
We've got 8 power points available, 1 getting used here thanks to the Protect. But you have 7 more left with just a tiny little bit of HP remaining.
Yeah, and it might even still survive the Thunderclap. So, like, Tornadoes are usually run pretty bulky. Maybe this is much more offensive one because it's got that access to the Sharp Beak, implying it's been trained in its special attack. But yeah, like, you can still play that mind game. You can stall out all of the Thunderclaps. However, if there's Thunderbolt clicked at any time and Bleakwind Storm was not, that's immediately game for Charlie. We'll have to see here.
Find out.
Thunderclap, and it's going to go off.
It's going to go off, and it is the KO on the Tornadus. Bleakwind Storm connects on the Raging Bolt, and we are going to a game number 3.
Wow, what a finish there. Oh, that was a clutch survival from the Tornadus. I wouldn't be surprised if they trained for that attack, because that is incredibly crucial. Wow. Yeah, I was going to say what a finish, but we're not finished. We've got another game to go.
Thank goodness for that. A fantastic 3-game set upon us. The Europe International Championship title hanging in the midst of this 3rd and final game. Wow, let's take a look back at what happened in game number 2 to get us to this point.
Yeah, we see there was no terrestrialization on that Chi-Yu. If that had gone for the Terra Ghost, that would have been huge momentum for Leland there, but not committing to it in case there was the Wicked Blow. Speaking of, that was a one-shot into the Tornadus. And if we assume that the Tornadus are probably pretty similarly trained, that was very, very impressive that it survived the Wicked Blow. Didn't survive the Wicked Blow, but was able to survive the Thunderclap there.
What a phenomenal turn of events. Down to the final couple of moves. Chi-Yu getting finished off with the double Genies in front of it, and then that miss of the Bleakwind Storm brought this down to those final couple of mind games there with the Thunderclap, and that clutch survival there from the Tornadus was able to lock it up for Leland. We get to go to a game number 3. So exciting for both of these trainers when Charlie Kim and Leland Smith are both chasing adding an international championship title to their trophy cabinets.
Yeah, given how both of these games have gone so far, either player would be absolutely deserving of that title. It's been such a fast-paced game 1 and game 2. Let's see how game 3 is going to go.
Let's get right into it. Leland is going to lead with the Raging Bolt and the Tornadus. And for Charlie, it's going to be the Urshifu next to that prankster partner.
Yeah, it was Raging Bolt that was led for Charlie in the game 1, but now Leland is going to be taking a leaf out of Charlie's book. They're leading with that Raging Bolt. And in the face of the Urshifu, maybe you do consider that immediate Terra Fairy to keep yourself safe from those attacks. But there's no Tailwind coming out from Charlie. The Tornadus is switching out.
Wow. What an interesting turn of events when both trainers were so happy to keep their Tornaduses in front of each other. This is what we were talking about. A speed advantage here now for Leland when you know that there's only going to be Sucker Punch available.
Oh, what a switch in.
Wow, the Raging Bolt takes that Thunderbolt so quickly. And with a Wicked Blow, you actually one-shot the Tornadus on Leland's side. But there's still Tailwind available. This is not a bad position for Leland to be in, even though he lost that Tornadus on the first turn.
Yeah, I was going to say, this has to be the Landorus to be able to threaten that Raging Bolt that has now switched in. And because it was Wicked Blow, once again, you didn't drop your defenses with the close combat. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Urshifu is able to survive any attack coming out from the Raging Bolt. The Earth Power, it might get pretty close if it's able to KO that opposing Urshifu. But then if you're going for Earth Power into the Urshifu, that's leaving the Raging Bolt free to do whatever it wants this turn.
Urshifu is locked into Wicked Blow. We saw that happen on the first turn, and with that choice band, it cannot change its move unless that Urshifu gets removed from the field and comes back in. But for Charlie, well, I mean, this Raging Bolt, it looks like a juicy target for this Landorus to go after it with a super effective ground type attack, and that's why the Landorus here for Charlie is a perfect safe switch. The Sandseer Storm doesn't affect the Landorus on the switch in, but it does take out such a major amount of HP from the Urshifu, and with the Raging Bolt moving first in the Tailwind, the Thunderbolt is going to get the knockout.
Yeah, so that's no extra damage out there coming from the Wicked Blow. A really nice switch in on a potential Earth Power, but Sandseer Storm able to connect with both Pokemon here and did connect with that Urshifu. But now we do have Tornadus join the field, can match the Tailwind. That will put the Landorus on Charlie's side of the field faster than the Raging Bolt once again, but it is still at full HP. It should be able to survive an Earth Power.
Charlie's going to try to stall out as many turns of Tailwind as possible, but that's going to leave the Landorus vulnerable. With a Sludge Bomb, you have the Dragon Pulse as a follow-up move, and it just barely hangs on with 6 HP. The Life Orb, the Earth Power is going to knock out the Landorus, but not before it actually delivers quite a big blow here to the Raging Bolt.
Yeah, that was a fantastic call and might be a game-winning call here for Leland. Yes, you do get to go for the Tailwind on the Tornadus now, but a clutch survival coming out from both of these Pokemon here. Who's going to move first between the two Landorus?
It's going to come down to this. Charlie and Leland both have the same Pokemon, but it's going to be Charlie's Landorus that moves first. The Raging Bolt only had just a tiny bit of HP to hang on with, but that Earth Power is almost certainly going to be a lot. Sludge Bomb here now from the Tornadus, and that is going to finally get through Leland's turns of Tailwind. He doesn't have the Tornadus left to be able to reset that up, so speed now in Charlie's control.
But Sucker Punch doesn't care about speed, and now we might be into a Sucker Punch mind game. I think that has to be the move of choice here from the Urshifu, given the speed advantage has now flipped back to Charlie's side of the field, because Bleak Wind Storm should be able to pick up the knockout on the Urshifu. Earth Power should be able to pick up the knockout on that Urshifu, and now you might need to play around with those Sucker Punches. Do you have to go for a Protect to be able to bypass that? Well, at least the Tornadus is going for that Protect.
Protect is available on both of these Pokemon, but it's going to be the Tornadus for Charlie that is going to use that, and the Sucker Punch was headed its way, but it's going to fail because of the Protect. So Earth Power fires off into the Urshifu. It's just a one-hit knockout for that Pokemon, and Landorus is all that Leland has left to decide this final game. Charlie, with 3 Pokemon remaining, make that 2 because Leland is going to be able to knock out the opposing Landorus on the other side. Tornadus and Raging Bolt versus the Landorus for Leland. It's not over yet.
It's not, and we've seen that Raging Bolt was able to survive an Earth Power from full HP. It's only just not at full HP, so it might be in range of that attack. We know Sludge Bomb would KO the Tornadus, but it's being able to connect with the Bleak Wind Storm.
Bleak Wind Storm is huge. That Landorus is going to take a lot of damage, and the Tailwind is still active for Charlie. So the Dragon